New intro session for our upcoming 6-week TV pilot writing program that will take you from idea to finished draft in 6 class meetings. Due to the holidays, the schedule will be a little bit different than it usually is. But we're working on updating all of our calendars on our website, which currently is not up to date. So check the calendar back in the next couple days to get an updated listing of when all the classes will be. But this right now, you do not have to be a member to attend this class. This is public and open to everyone, as our free intro sessions often are. If you are having any trouble with your microphone, we have a couple of slides here that might just give you some tips. If you need to rewind to earlier in the stream in order to get a look at these, you can do so. But the main thing is just keep an eye on that small gray microphone icon there in the bottom left corner of your screen. If that's on, that means we can't hear you. And if it's red, that means we've had to put it on for you because sometimes folks can't find the button or otherwise are not muted. Anyway, just remember that you'll be given some chances to speak and talk about your idea today. And generally, as screenwriters and people that want to break into TV writing especially, this is a very collaborative, very social form of writing. So you should be coming to these classes being prepared to speak and articulate and explain your ideas very thoroughly. All right, so what's Script Camp? We're a screenwriting community that's focused on helping take your concept from idea to first draft to a more polished script with lots of free classes, events, and workshops. And we have some classes for our supporting members too, such as the boot camps, the Writers Lab, the Advanced Lab, and other additional events and workshops that we have on the server. This is just one of many communities in our larger group of our company, which is called Skill Camp. This includes many different skills besides screenwriting, and we're adding new ones all the time. So feel free to check out our other Discord servers. We're part of a 501c3 nonprofit organization that's dedicated to bringing free and low-cost classes to help people learn skills to reach their life goals. With new classes coming soon that will be free for supporting members. So drop by our new servers and say hi. We have our next biggest one is WordCamp, which is focused on novel writing. That's about 100 members by now, but still growing, and that one is hosting our novel bootcamp currently, which is our biggest and most ambitious bootcamp yet that has run for 10 weeks so far and is going to be running 12 weeks till the end of the year. So if you're interested in novel writing or all forms of fiction or nonfiction, then you should join WordCamp and get ready for more of those classes in the new year. We also have weekly recurring classes on many of our new servers, such as Toon Camp and coming up on Code Camp. Film Camp and Creator Camp also have classes in lighting that we're offering now. And Design and Lingo Camp, we're still getting up and running, but we're going to start having classes there soon. So plenty of other events, classes, workshops going on the other servers on Skill Camp. So check those out. And your membership, if you become a member, includes access to all of these. You don't have to get separate membership for all these things. Becoming a monthly supporting member gives you full access to every class that we have on all of these different groups. So a little about me. I've been writing full-length scripts for, I guess, going on 12 years now. Moved to LA in 2015 with no connections and got repped for the first time in 2017 when I placed in the top 10 of a pretty big contest called the Launchpad Features Contest. I think somebody may have had a question. Go ahead. Or I misheard. Never mind. The rest of the info you can find here. I'm not going to read off every little thing, but you can see that I've written for TV before. I've wrote on Creepshow back in 2019. And have gotten a lot of my work in rewrites on features, which obviously rewriting and reworking ideas being a very closely linked skill to television writing. I have a thriller script set up at a production company in town now. I teach the boot camps and also the weekly Writers Lab. I'm hearing some sound from someone's mic. If everyone can make sure that mics are muted, please just click that gray microphone icon in the bottom left corner of your screen if you can't find that. That's about me. So let's look at how you can help Skill Camp. You can become a supporting member, which we're going to show you all the various great benefits of membership, but that gets you access to everything that we do on all these servers from as low as $29 a month if you get our yearly rate. You can volunteer if you know a skill or language you'd like to teach. You can contact Nacho or myself, and last, you can refer your friends. So you'll both get a free month of unlimited if you refer a friend and they stick with the membership past the free trial. And you will both also get a free month of Arc Studio Pro, which is a great screenwriting software. So here's a list of everything coming up on all of our different servers. This is just most of the things. We have even more than this. But the greatest hits here, we have feature, pilot, and novel boot camps running right now. That's normally what I'm going to be teaching in addition to Writers Lab on Saturdays. We're going to have a bunch of new classes and workshops and sort of one-off promotional events throughout December. So even if you're just a free user and you just want to hop in for a few events without committing to becoming a supporting member yet, you can do so and participate all throughout the rest of the month and into January on both Script Camp and Word Camp. New novel classes will be starting soon, probably February of the upcoming year. We have new sessions of Painting with Light and Home Studio Workshop coming up on Creator and Film Camp on December 17th, so that's end of next week. We have animation classes weekly, Tuesdays at 3 on Toon Camp, and that's part of an ongoing series. Character Design Bootcamp starting in December. Code Camp starts in January of the upcoming year, January 8th. Sundays at noon is when that one's going to be. We also have multiple script swaps per week, Tuesday and also Wednesday, Tuesday at 5, Wednesday at 11. We have clubs for different genres like fantasy and horror, which are both very popular groups that we have lots of people showing up every week, telling us about the recent things you've read in those genres, and we have activities and also guests, and it's just a really fun time. Those are all totally free to everyone on the server. The last thing is that we have a short contest award ceremony coming up tomorrow. You should all come by for this. This is also a free event that you can find on Script Camp. This is going to be us declaring the winners of our 2022 horror short writing contest. And we're going to do table readings of these two shorts with actors that we've gotten that we cast from the Filmocracy server. And we're going to have 2 industry guests. We're going to have Max Perry, the writer of the Sacha Baron Cohen espionage drama The Spy on Netflix. And I think we'll have one more guest. I don't want to jinx it, but I think we will have another pro screenwriter who has written a pretty popular horror thriller feature before. I think we'll have him as another guest to offer comments on these readings. We'll have cast actors coming in and everything, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely come by. It's only about an hour, so that'll be tomorrow at noon Pacific time on Script Camp. You can find it'll be hard to miss. It'll be right there. You'll be able to join and watch along with these great winners. And we're going to have more contests like this coming up too. So if you're looking to enter scripts between 1 to 5 pages long, we're going to have more opportunities for that and more great prizes for those winners too. All right, here's a bunch of the promotional classes coming up from December to January. Most of the titles on these are pretty self-explanatory, covering kind of bigger, broader topics like how to outline a screenplay. That's coming up this Sunday at 11 a.m. We have How to Create a TV Show, December 14th at 6 o'clock. And again, these are looking at really broad strokes of how to, design a cast. We're going to look into the rules of our world and the setting and just those really broad strokes that are going to help us define the walls and the boundaries of the idea. Week 1 is going to be Friday, December 16th. That is going to be looking at concept and loglines. That's going to be Fridays, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Throughout the rest of... we'll have... The holidays are going to throw that schedule off a little bit, but check back soon for the full calendar for that. Anyway, the week 1 class is going to be December 16th. And we have a couple other classes as well. Writing Your First Page is going to be December 18th at 11, just looking at the fundamentals of what goes on the first page. Christmas Pitch Fest, you can pitch a movie idea and win prizes, December 21st at 6. We're going to look at pitching and selling a movie idea, Wednesday, December 28th at 6. And we're going to have a look inside the TV Writers Room, potentially with a TV writer guest, Friday, December 30th at 6 p.m. A couple other classes that you can see up there, too. New Feature Bootcamp Week 1 starts January 8th. Oh, and there it is, yeah. So our second week is going to be Friday, January 6th. So we'll have week 1, and then you'll have quite a long time throughout the holidays for you to work on your idea and get the fundamentals down in place before we rejoin the class in January on the 6th with our week 2 looking at story beats. So if you're looking for when those classes really get going, that's going to be December 16th for TV Pilot, and January 8th will be week 1 of features. All right, what are the boot camps, though? So these are courses that are designed to take you from idea to first draft, or from a rough draft to a more polished rewrite if you're going to be doing a substantial reworking of an existing script. Generally, we're trying to write new scripts, though. We're not trying to rewrite old stuff, but we do have some room for that if you're willing to do a page 1 rewrite and have gotten feedback and have a good plan of action moving forward. Then we are open to rewrites as well now in our boot camps. We have step-by-step practical classes using this very straightforward method 2-hour weekly meetings, 8 weeks for features, 6 weeks for pilot. And we've done 4 weeks for pitching, short film, and other genres in the past for other short series. And currently our novel bootcamp is 12 weeks long. We're just concluding the first one of those. So here's a look at what's coming up. This is week 0 today, so the overview is going to look at premise and logline, and we're just going to talk what is the idea for a TV show and how can we possibly define that in just one single sentence or a pair of sentences that are going to be the clear articulation of what the idea is and helping us both understand it ourselves and also explain or pitch it to somebody else, a potential reader or even a producer or something like that. Not that we should be getting ready to make TV shows, as we will say again and again in these early classes. You should be doing this because you're trying to essentially go and run laps at the gym. This is not so you can write and sell a TV show right out of the gate. That kind of thing takes many, many, many years of perfecting your craft, negotiating in the business, meeting people, networking, and all these things. So don't go into this expecting this is a boot camp to get my script into sellable condition. This is the first step in a very long journey to becoming a writer. The goal is not really to dig for gold until you find an amazing script. The goal is to get better at running these laps that you're going to need to run in order to build your skills. Takes a very long time to get good at TV writing or feature writing, especially because pilots are such a completely unique form of story. It's like an incomplete story by its definition that needs to act as a kind of representative sample of what the rest of the show will be. It in and of itself needs to sort of be like a sampling of what the entire show is going to end up, the sort of thrills that show is going to deliver, while also moving the kind of key machinery of the characters and the plot into place so that the rest of the show can flow naturally from that point and make sense. But it needs to be a completely self-contained and interesting, fascinating beginning, middle, end story on its own, too. So there's nothing intuitive about this. This is, in fact, one of the hardest documents to write. And you'll even see a lot of professional shows that the pilot is not the best because it took a few seasons for them to kind of find their feet and learn who the characters are and also just move past the growing pains of figuring out a TV series and like a long-form narrative. So don't expect to be good at this right away. Don't expect that your first show is going to sell and make you money or get you an agent or anything, or even that necessarily anyone will be able to read it all the way through. Look at this as running laps and improving your skills and trying to work to the point where you can become a writer, not a person who has written one script. Though, of course, that first script is still a major benchmark, and we should celebrate the victories as we get them. Just set your victory benchmarks more staggered. Set them a little bit to progress to the much bigger things off in the distance so that you still can feel like you're accomplishing something. Like, finishing a script is a huge accomplishment. Make no mistake. And this class is geared to help you do exactly that. So whether it's your first script or you've come from having done these before, we'll check in and you can tell us a bit about your goals and if you've maybe written scripts before or what your experience level is in just a minute here after I go over the basics of this. But welcome back if you are returning and welcome if you are new. We're going to go from idea to finished draft in 6 class meetings, so you're going to have that the holidays are going to balloon out the time that you would normally get into something like, I think 8 weeks probably total. You're going to try ultimately to get good at being able to conceive, write, and execute at as high level as you can a brand new script for a TV show in about 6 to 10 weeks, and for a movie in about 8 to 12 weeks is what you want to aim for in a professional sense. So let's look at everything else coming up this week. I'll take questions on this, then we'll move to sharing and meeting you guys. You can introduce yourself and tell us about your experience level and goals. Let's look at the last couple things here first. So today we're going to look at just the fundamentals of this course. What is TV writing? What is a pilot? Why do you write one? All these things. Then we're going to have time during our second half of the class. The second hour is geared entirely towards helping you get that early feedback on whatever version of your idea that you have. So if you have absolutely no idea what TV show pilot you would want to write, that's okay. You're going to sort of even be incentivized and encouraged to pick something that you don't care that much about and something that's just new and seems interesting and kind of grabs your attention in the moment. You're not trying to write some masterpiece right now or tell some really important story or something that really, really matters to you probably because, one, your first couple scripts are just not going to be good, as we know. And second of all, you don't want to be focusing on this like internal pressure that it has to be good. So you're going to have a lot of room to just share whatever you've got, and we're going to give you feedback and meet you wherever you are to try to shape that towards an idea that at least is going to be accomplishable within the confines and boundaries of this class. So we're not going to try to coach you into making a masterpiece. We're going to try to find the things that you have, shape it into something that works, and get you ready to begin with our week 1 course. And with that head start of having figured out the essentials of your logline and the basic expressions of what the idea is. you got to try to understand your idea. I mean, ideas come in many different shapes and sizes, and we'll talk today about delivering the sort of smallest possible box that contains your idea, which is the logline. So next week, December 16th, we'll look at finalizing that series in pilot loglines, which are the 2 sentences that are going to express the fundamentals of what is this story about and what is the show ultimately about. 1 sentence for each of those. We're going to try to finalize by the end of next week's class. So you'll have all up until then to just goof around with this and experiment and try stuff. And even if you only have 3 half-formed bad ideas, we can start to sort of shape those and work with those today. Next week, we'll look at why this particular story. So you're going to try to sift through all these different separate ideas that you have and pick the one that you're most excited about, which is usually the answer as to why you choose any one story over the other, is because it's going to maintain your interest and attention all the way until you have finished, weeks and weeks of working on it, or potentially months of rewrites and revisions and working on it. So you're going to try to pick something that will hold your interest until then, and if you're just starting out, you don't have to focus on making something amazing. So remove that pressure from yourself and you'll find this much easier. So we'll be filling out the sketchbook this week, and all throughout the process, you're going to be working on this thing we call the sketchbook, which is just a blank Google document that is going to contain all of your ideas. It's like a collage of your inspirations, research material, and ideas for characters, lines of dialogue, just like everything that you already have in your head as it pertains to that particular idea. So we're going to actually start that today, and there's no point that it's done, and there's no point you need to turn it in or anything like that, but a sketchbook is there to help you aggregate all of your ideas into one place so that you're not sifting through 9 different, folders full of sticky notes, full of little half-shredded ideas or something like that. It's also going to be a preliminary workspace where you'll start to put together your story beats, scene cards, and other pre-writing documents before you begin. Week 2, outlining, that's going to be on broad strokes. January 6th, so that's our class, the first class of the new year. That's going to be focusing on the story beat summary. So we're going to talk all about structure that day, and we're going to start to order the key events of your pilot into the proper arrangement. So the major things need to be in place, and we need to kind of find out how one event leads to the next event. We don't need to have all the details filled in, but you're going to try to just get those major points down on paper so that you have a sense of what the shape of the story looks like. The week after that, week 3, on January 13th, is going to be expanding that list of story beats into a full paragraph for every scene. So you're going to have broken out the structure so extensively that you know what's supposed to happen on every page before you start writing, meaning before you start actually formatting those scenes, using your screenwriting software, writing dialogue, and actually, filling out all the detail of those scenes. So we spend the first half of the course just figuring out what happens on every page. That might be more pre-writing and more sort of architecture work than you're used to doing. So I recommend giving it a shot, even if you're more of someone who kind of plans things out or who doesn't like to plan things out and just wants to sort of jump in. TV writing and screenwriting are very sort of finicky architectural forms of writing where you will be it will behoove you greatly to work out what happens in every page and every act beforehand and be able, especially in a TV sense, to cooperate with a room full of people who need to then plan out how that story will fit into, up to 22 other stories that are going to interlock with the pieces that you are putting in place. So you really need to get good at organizing and pre-writing, and learning how to write TV is very much just the act of figuring out how does the structure work and how can I best use it in the framework that I have access to. So the access you have to it being as simple as just a blank Google document. You can figure out what happens on every page before you begin. You don't even need to download screenwriting software before the halfway mark of the course. So really try to let it breathe and really give yourself the time to figure out the idea without just jumping in and kind of exploring, off the bat spontaneously. We're trying to plan things out. And that's the method that we really use in Script Camp, is very based on planning and organizing and being architects, as we say. Week 4 is first act, week 5 is second act, and week 6 is third act. That's going to be January 20th, 27th, and February 3rd, with your first draft finished by February 10th. So during that latter half of the class, you're going to be writing about 10 pages a week if you're doing a half-hour show, and about 20 pages a week if you're doing a full hour-long show. So that's going to be either 2 pages a weekday if you're writing half-hour, and 4 pages on a weekday, every weekday if you're writing full hour, for 3 weeks. And that's pretty manageable for most people. You can always get ahead if you want to. There's no actual grades or anything like that. We're not enforcing any of these deadlines or these benchmarks, but we are finding that if you try your best to follow along with these, it will keep your motivation and momentum up and high enough to finish this draft within the pretty short time frame. So February 10th is when that script is going to be totally done. It's actually 2 months from now, I guess, so you have a little bit of time, a little bit more time than normal in this upcoming bootcamp. Okay, let me take any questions on this, and then we'll move to introductions, and you'll be able to tell us about your goals, your favorite shows and writers, experience levels, or anything like that. So let me pause and just ask, are there any questions so far on anything that I've mentioned? Okay, there's no questions, and make sure remember that you can use the chat in our Discord. You can click that word bubble over the classroom where it says the words open chat, and you can use that to leave questions or comments as we go, and I'll be checking back that intermittently, or if you're not able to use your mic for some reason, you can type in there. Okay, looks like we have a few folks who have commented in the chat. Old Gods Like You says, can't wait, great. And Gamerbird says, this will be good. I have a show pilot I want to workshop. Okay, perfect. Well, great to have you guys. Let's jump right in. So we're going to, last couple things before we do introductions, just take a look for a moment at the benefits of membership, which is going to essentially just include all the classes, all the workshops, every event on all of our servers. If you sign up to become a supporting member, over 70, or this must be 80 to 100 hours by now of classes every month. Access to the video library, which includes recordings of all of the classes, super important if you want to review those later. And also, any kind of membership includes $100 off consultations or proofreads. Coaching options also available if you're looking for sort of more one-on-one meetings and career advice and direct one-on-one work. That's weekly one-on-one meetings for the coaching option. We have yearly subscriptions available for both of those. You save 40% by ordering yearly, just to note. And last, you can get notes on your script if you go to scriptcamp.net/coverage. Like I mentioned, members get $100 off of this. But even if you're not a member, you can order a full sticky note markup of your script from me, as well as a half-hour call to explain the major points of that and also answer all your questions about it. So check that out at scriptcamp.net/coverage. We also do design of pitch decks, lookbooks, and other visual materials. Okay, so let's just sort of go down a list. I'll just call on people. I believe it defaults to alphabetical order. So you can share whatever you'd like. You can tell us about your favorite shows, what your experience level is. So maybe it's your first script, or maybe you've been writing for a while. What are your goals, and what are you hoping to accomplish in the class? We'll start at the top with a familiar Script Camp student, Carmen.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm glad to be back. I know I've been gone a lot this past week, and I've been really, 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 really sick. And so let me give a little commercial. I've been doing the Script Camp thing as a member at the $49 a month membership level for, I think, since like March or something like that this year. And I've written 4 scripts minus killing the monster. I still haven't killed the monster in this last one. And a little bit more than half a novel. So these classes really work. If you're considering becoming a member, it's definitely a great idea. You know, if you follow all the steps, you will finish your projects. So that being said, I'm just now coming out of it pretty bad. I thought I was going to die the other day. So the project that I'm considering working on, which I know I'm supposed to be writing that, The Last Laying Hen, but I may take a break from the feature writing to write this pilot. I'm 17 pages into it, but I know that it's not in the structure that it needs to be in. And then also I get kind of confused when I'm reading it about, we've actually read some of it before. It's about it's kind of like highlighting some of the things of the pharmaceutical industry in the civilian world and in military life. So it's showing the different lives of people who are being affected by pharmaceutical industry related things. And so I think what my issue is not really understanding how to, because you have to have a main protagonist. So I feel like I have one, but then when I go to the other, when I'm going into the other people's lives, then all of a sudden they become the important person in the story. And I'm just kind of struggling with that part. And so, but I have a lot of the sketchbook already done for this, a lot of it with the different characters and what their dreams and goals are and their flaws and stuff. So structure is the problem for me almost always. So that's what I'm working on to perfect understanding of structure. I'm like a beginner right now on this. I'm definitely like a beginner right now on this pilot thing because of the structure thing. So yeah,
Great.
That's it. I have a lot of writing goals.
Cool. That's awesome. And yeah, I've made really great progress, finished a lot of scripts with us, so glad to see you back for more. We can definitely look at structure and hopefully hammer home some of those points that you've been struggling with so far during this course.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carmen. Let's check with Dan.
Hello. This is technically my second time around in this here. I'm not sure how active I'll be this time around, but I'm definitely always good for a refresher course and hear how other people are doing it. New phrases, new ideas to come around. But I did this course before, did not finish because, and I'll give this one piece of advice to everybody. I will give it for free. I will say it from the rooftop, from the mountains, my megaphones. Don't give yourself too many projects at the same time. Please don't write too many stories at the same time. You will actually realize you are writing the wrong story and giving the wrong characters the wrong dialogue.
Yep, that happens to so many folks when they try to balance between multiple really intensive projects at once. They cross the wires get crossed, and you just end up getting confused. And writing a script is a pretty intensive document to work on. It's not like a book that people kind of work on a novel maybe on and off for years. A script, generally, you want to try to write it in a pretty condensed time frame, so it makes it extra tricky to pull off multiple at once. So that's a good tip from Dan. Thank you, Dan.
No problem. My experience level is fairly new-ish. I'm not even sure what I would call myself. I've got the basics, but I tend to overwrite. That's one of the biggest things I'm trying to cut down is overwriting.
Cool. Yeah, I think you're maybe advanced beginner or heading towards that intermediate stage.
That's probably where I would say I am.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan.
No problem.
Let's check with Gamer Bird.
Good evening. So you probably already know what my tag is, so I'm just gonna jump right into it. So favorite shows or writers? I'm one of those people that really can't decide on a favorite, but I can definitely say the types of shows or writers that I lean towards. I want to say that the types of shows or movies that I watch, they're more likely to be animated comedies that kind of have that sort of like meta feel to it. So like basically that show kind of like different awareness of like different tropes. I always kind of like the more subversive take. So shows like say Phineas and Ferb by Dan Pomeroy or Justin B. Morris, some of the best TV writers ever. So that's one of my favorites for that reason, because like especially in the later seasons, they just like pretty much play around with the formula that they established. I've always been a fan of that. It's my experience level. Okay, so I am currently a college senior. So I have had experience with writing scripts before. I probably wouldn't say that I'm like 100% confident in writing a whole film, though I have written a whole film draft, because I use Final Draft for myself, so I've written a whole screenplay on there. But I did write a short film this semester that I'm supposed to be filming next semester, so that'll be fun.
Okay, but you never finished a full pilot before?
Right.
Got it. Great. Okay, well hopefully this class will give you that push and the organization skills that you need to not only finish this pilot, but also you can carry that over. The same methods can carry over to other forms of writing too. Like you can use these same tactics to outline a short film or a feature or a play or anything like that. The class is really like how to learn how to organize a longer narrative.
Right. Okay, so for my goals, I'm honestly at the state where I am still sort of deciding. So I'm trying to look for internships for the summer of next year. I mean, I haven't been successful in finding one yet, but I am registering for some, so I'm hoping I get some form of experience that semester. And as for the pilot that I want to workshop, because I already have an idea of what I want to do, so I've recently been watching a lot of workplace comedies because last decade there was only one that I really watched, and that was Superstore on NBC.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't watched the seasons, but I have watched like the majority of it. And I recently started watching The Office, and I figured that there are animated workplace comedies, but I want to make kind of like basically like kind of like an animated version of The Office. So the pilot that I have in mind is it's basically like. Just give me one sec.
No problem. Well, actually, in the second half of class, we'll have lots of time to share the idea and to get feedback on the logline and stuff like that. So do you want to maybe work on it and look at it and see, maybe check the wording on it, and then in the second half of class you can share it with us?
Okay, because I do have the idea. I just take a while to kind of say it sometimes because like
That's
it's
okay.
sitting in there, but it's probably in my mouth. So anyway. So here's what I'm going to workshop. So basically, it takes place in kind of like it's basically one of those like human and cartoon character type of worlds. So like you know how in Looney Tunes there's always stuff like the Acme Corporation.
Sure.
Like my idea was basically to be like an animated version of The Office, where it actually takes place at the Acme offices, where they try to make themselves more relevant in the era of more like story or character driven shows as opposed to the old short cartoon styles of like the 1930s and 40s. Basically,
Sure.
like adaptability and trying to be relatable in today's environment.
Okay, that sounds funny. That's a good setup. So they're the factory that makes all the anvils and fireworks and all the stuff that blows up Wile E. Coyote. That sounds cool.
Right.
So yeah, take a look at your logline and tweak it as much as you'd like, and then in the second half of class you can share more with us about it.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you. Let's check with Jotol.
I missed the heading of this. Sorry, man. What was the question?
Oh, so you can tell us, you can introduce yourself, favorite shows and writers, what's your experience level, what are your goals with the class?
I'm still fairly new to this, I guess. Like all films. I'm mainly just here to just as a bit of inspiration to get some writing done. No real specific plans yet in terms of TV, but just more here to see if anything, I don't know, sparks any thought or intrigue in terms of skills that I've either overlooked in the past or just wasn't aware of. I found, as I'm sure you're aware at this point, but maybe not some of the other people. Like I've been doing these classes for a little while now, but I found that like just regularly popping in just helps to refresh a lot of the stuff that a lot of the time I tend to already know, but I think it's just hearing it sometimes and reworded in a different way, or even just hearing the same thing get repolished sometimes really helps to just make it like second nature at some point. Like it's getting to a point now where I feel like I can nail each of these beats pretty just like off the top of my head now, and that's only come from just like continuously doing it over and over again. I will note to add to rather, but to also simultaneously counter what Dan was saying. I will say to a word of warning of people starting out as well. Probably not so much in this in this particular workshop. But do be wary as well of falling into the opposite extreme of getting too bogged down on an idea when it seems to not be working. That's been one of my big things that I've been struggling with, where it's like I'm trying to really work this idea. Obviously, it's gotten to a point where it has taught me a lot of lessons of like what there was mistakes that I'm initially been trying to fix. But yeah, do keep in mind that the opposite can also be true with the writing. You can overdo it, you can also underdo it, or you can overdo it for the wrong reasons. So yeah.
Great advice.
I'll
Thank
let
you. Go ahead.
I'll let you move on. I appreciate it. That's all I really got to say. Sorry, but yeah,
Sure,
goals
no, you're all
wise,
good.
nothing too specific, but just finish the script that I said I've been bogged down on. But I guess I'm trying to just conceptualize an idea that could be help. Like I found like one of the reasons I think I'm getting tripped on the current idea is that I'm just not allowing enough room for play. So I think I'm just gonna try to start even if it's not necessarily TV or if it's something else, and we'll see. But I just want to conceptualize a logline and find something that might be within the same genre, just so I can play around with it structurally and not to get too caught up in like all the bigger details and just have a bit more fun and see if that inspires me.
Right.
But yeah, that's
great.
That's man.
Yeah, maybe consider just doing a half-hour pilot. I mean, a half-hour pilot is going to be like maybe 15 scenes total. So it's just not a huge commitment, and it's even if it's just a silly kind of disposable idea, you can still write it in like 3 or 4 weeks if you just focus on that for a while. And 5 scenes per act, 3 acts, it goes by quick.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Yeah, I gotta get over that little. I guess it's I was gonna say it's perfectionism, but I think it's stemming from more of fear than an actual desire for perfection. So it's a fear of imperfection rather than a desire for perfection. But yeah, it's getting over that. But yeah, it's probably a good idea. It's something just a little bit smaller, no real high stakes, no real emotional weight, just something I can play around with and have a little bit more fluidity with. So, but yeah, I'll have a think of that. So thank you.
Sure. Thanks for coming. Nacho, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, yeah, sure. I'm the co-founder of Script Camp, and I've been writing since high school. And also, yeah, I would like also echo the same comment about not getting too caught up in one idea. I had that when I first started writing. I wrote a few scripts, and then I wrote one. It took me a couple years, and just at some point, it's like you may have an idea that's so cool that might be a little beyond your skill level. And so one thing that can be helpful is to go and just write some kind of fun thing that you don't care too much about, just for practice. And that was super helpful for me to kind of like get better. And then when I went back to that concept, I was able to really tackle what I wasn't able to handle before. So that can be a tactic that can really help. And favorite shows, I would say Game of Thrones, Lost, Fringe, Breaking Bad, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Arrested Development. Experience level, so yeah, I've been writing for, I've written about 15 features and 2 pilots. So I haven't written that many pilots yet. So look forward to maybe knocking out a pilot with this bootcamp. So
Great.
And what are my goals? Yeah, just keep writing and getting better with each script.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nacho. We just have 3 more, it looks like. Let's check with Old Gods Like You.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
I hear you fine. Go ahead.
Awesome. So my name is Lee. I am super excited to be here. This is great so far. So my favorite current shows I guess one of them's finished, but What We Do in the Shadows is huge. I love it. I love that it does things that for any other show would be like jumping the shark, but it gets away with it somehow. Feel Good is another one that I really enjoyed recently. Severance, I'm like anxiously waiting for season 2 of Severance.
Oh, same. I loved Severance. Such a
Oh
good
my
finale.
god, it was so good. So I love basically anything that Steph Robinson touches. She is the showrunner for What We Do in the Shadows. She also worked on Our Flag Means Death and worked on Atlanta. I just think she is like one of these people who everybody is going to know her name in comedy TV, if they don't already. Quinta Brunson, also Abbott Elementary. I've been following her career since she was on BuzzFeed, and I just feel like I just get chills and you know, so many happy feelings for her whenever I see her succeeding. And she won an Emmy. And then my experience level, I am quite new at screenwriting. I have done a lot of writing and editing before, of like poetry, nonfiction. I've done some directing and like worked on some physical comedy, but I just sort of found my way into screenwriting in the summer. And I have been super lucky to find the Script Hive server and gotten some really good feedback from folks on there. I did complete the first draft, the first legible draft of a half-hour pilot for an original sitcom dramedy. And I won't go into that now, but I can share logline later. And I felt very fortunate that I had some people actually read it on the Discord, which is like just a wonderful experience. My goals are, other than to just improve as a writer, I want to submit something to the Nickelodeon writing program that opens in July. Just to see. And so that you need an original pilot and you need so this would be like a step on the way to that, to do this program. And then another goal, which is just like writing in general, I want to make like the equivalent of the Dick Van Dyke Show. Like lots of physical comedy, silly, it's always happy, everybody loves each other, but with trans people. So that's it. That's my like artistic goal. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great. All that sounds achievable. I think that, and the fellowships are a great option for breaking in, and also one of the few places that will still accept a spec script of an existing show at this point. So it's kind of a good excuse to like write an episode of something already on TV, like a little fan fiction episode essentially. So that'll be a great time. And yeah, this will be a good chance to work on the original pilot to submit alongside that if you want to do, because I think you do need to enter both at the same time. Thank you for that. Let's check with Tamara.
I'm sorry, I just got cut off for a second. Hi, yes, my name is Tamara. I am coming from a background of technical work. I've worked in television and film for a while, and I would like to transition my career into just mostly writing. I've written a couple of films. I haven't written for television yet. My interests are all over the place. I like Flea. I like Abbott Elementary. I like Game of Thrones, Sons of Anarchy. I love Lena Waithe. My work mostly is drama. And I came to this class. I'm usually working right now. I had the day off and I saw that this was being offered and I was like, oh, wow, something that is available when I'm not working. This is amazing. I'm on the East Coast, so this was really great for me. I would like to take the course, but I don't know how that's going to work with my work schedule. I'm also studying as a classical pianist, so I have to put hours into that as well. But I write often. I have a TV script that I've been working on. Again, I've never written for television, so I'm looking to learn the mechanics of writing for television, and also to get disciplined. Because when I have a difficult time with my writing, I just go pick up my piano book and get back into working on my compositions, and I would like to learn more about getting a script produced in television. I have a few people who are successful in television who I know well, But they're busy, and I just wanted to do this on my own. I have my own production company, and I would love to just transition my whole technical career in television to just writing. How whatever form that manifests in, I'm open to it. And I've read more about you, Connor, and thought, wow, this guy is helping people become successful writers, or at least confident writers. And my hats are off to you. And I figured I would try to dedicate as much time as I can to learning more from you and giving any advice or insight that I can to others while I'm learning this craft. So thank you for offering this, and thank you everybody who's participating, because I do believe we all learn from each other.
Thanks, Tamara. And yeah, if this class doesn't work with your schedule, if you become a member, you get access to the video library. So in theory, you could just watch the recordings the next day or whenever you choose to view them on your own. Or there's other boot camps going on as well, like we have the feature boot camp and novel boot camp going on simultaneously, so you could take one of those, or you could just wait until this course session is done, and then it'll switch to they alternate between 2 different days. So this will change to Saturday after this course is finished.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Sure, yeah. So the features currently is going to be Sundays. Sorry, wait. Sunday, not Saturday. Features is Sundays 11 to 1 or Pacific time, and currently TV this class is Fridays 6 to 8. But those are going to alternate after the class is done. So we try to make sure everyone has time to at least attend one of those, and then novels has been on Saturdays.
Great, thank you for that.
Sure. I think we have one more. Let's check with. I don't know how to read this. The bunker? I can just say bunker. That works. Okay, sure. Would you like to unmute and introduce yourself? Or just type to introduce yourself if you want. Or we can come back to you. Oh, there's some text there. You say you don't have a mic. Okay, that's understandable. I'll just read it out then. This is my first class. Favorite shows are Barry, Better Call Saul, Good Place. I'm still a beginner, like I've only made a handful of scripts, and I'm curious about the process of TV writing, and it's something I've wanted to learn. Writing a TV show sounds daunting and really hard, but exciting. My goals are to commit to this and learn as much from this experience as possible. Great. Cool. Sounds like you're in the right place. This is a good the exact spot to be to get an overview of what writing a pilot is like. Writing a whole show is usually the nice thing is that we don't write the whole show. We just ever are only writing the pilot and maybe a series Bible, which kind of explains what the rest of the show would be like. But yeah, this course will tell you pretty much everything that you need to know. So glad to have you here. Thanks for joining. I think that's everyone. Did I miss anyone who wants to chime in now? The Super Papa guy. Hi. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello. Yeah, I'm Patrick interested in, can you hear me?
I hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Patrick interested in, animation. Just saw, a notification for this on the, on Discord, kind of, see what was going on.
Oh, well, it's a whole introductory class to a TV writing course if you want to stick around.
Alright.
Thanks for joining. We're about to jump from our discussion into the first few slides. So if everyone can make sure to keep your mic muted, thank you. All right. Let's go into the class. Let's look at just the overview of what we're going to be getting into. And during this time, my recommendation for you is to be working on your logline if you already have some idea of what it might be. If you don't know what that is, the logline is the one-sentence expression of the idea. We have 2 separate loglines for a TV show. You have one for the entire series, and that sort of explains what the whole show is about. Then you're going to have one for the pilot that explains what the pilot is about. If you have one or the other of those that you want to get feedback on today, you can share it. If you don't have either of those, then maybe just start writing out a couple, try to figure out how to articulate the idea in just one single sentence. So that's going to include your protagonist and what they're trying to do, things like that. So try to just figure out the most basic expression of your idea and be working on that, because we're going to share that in about 15 to 20 minutes in the class. And everyone's going to get a chance to get that preliminary feedback on just whatever you've got. So just be working on that now, so that by the time we get to the sharing portion, you have something ready to copy and paste into the chat and be ready to talk about it too. Okay, let's go over some basics while you guys are doing that. Basics. So you're going to write a pilot in 6 weeks. 6 class meetings. You're going to have more time than 6 weeks. Will this draft be good? The answer is no, probably not. And you have to move beyond the idea that any one individual draft needs to be good. This is, like I said, going to the gym. We're not trying to unearth a buried treasure chest. So the objective here is to finish and move on to the next thing, having gained and learned from the experience of finishing something. So let's go into Google Docs right now, and this is what I was talking about in the sense of just start working out the basics of your logline. Let's go do this if you have not done this already. Go to Google Docs. You're going to make a brand new document that is going to be called your sketchbook. So you can call it the name of the show, sketchbook, if you know what the name of the show is. If you don't have a title in mind yet, just call it TV Pilot Sketchbook. And at the top of the document, you want to just list out a couple things or just note down some things that you're going to be working on throughout the rest of today's class and throughout the next couple weeks of classes. So the number one thing is your title. So you should be thinking of what the title is. A good title will often kind of clarify what the hook of the show is. So you can have a placeholder if you need for any of these things. Don't worry, these are not set in stone. Next is the genre. Only pick 2 genres. Don't be adding in like 25 genres. Try to pick the most pertinent and the most relevant ones. So don't describe it as an action, western, comedy, romance, musical, or else we're just going to get lost and not know what to expect at all anymore. Try to only combine 2 genres at most. Format and time slot, we're going to talk more about that today, but basically that's going to be half hour or full hour. That's time slot. And the format is going to be, the continuity format is how I refer to this. That's in reference to, is your show sort of more like a long movie, like something like Bates Motel? Or is it going to be every episode is a completely new scenario with the same sort of setup, something like The Simpsons? So that's the difference between our premise-based shows and status quo-based shows. Don't worry too much about that now, but as we get to those slides, you can fill in that field if you want. Then we have comps. Comps are going to be this show meets that show. So a way of expressing perhaps what the world of your show is meets the style or approach of this other thing. So if your show is set in the world of high school, we could say it's something like Degrassi, but then we want to say it has, I don't know, a sci-fi twist to it. Like it's going to be a school where the kid thinks his teacher is an alien. So we say it's Degrassi meets Aliens, right? Aliens is obviously a movie, not a TV show. So try to ideally pick 2 TV shows, but one of them can be a movie or a video game or something else if at least one of them is a show. So you could, in fact, say Degrassi meets Alien, and that would work as comps. So don't overthink this. Just pick a couple things that resemble what your show is, and you're trying to express the hook. Everything we're doing is trying to express the hook, right? So we could, if you have just a teen drama show, we could say it's like Degrassi meets 90210. But those are kind of just 2 of the same thing. So vanilla plus vanilla doesn't really feel like it's a new and different flavor. Peanut butter and chocolate feels like it's kind of a combination that's a new flavor, right? That's why I picked initially Degrassi meets Alien to, again, emphasize what the hook of this show and world is going to be. So try to do that with your comps if you can. And we're trying to clarify what is the appeal of this. What's new and different about this? What is something about this that we haven't exactly seen something just like that before? So a good pitch for a show is not going to be something like, well, it's a doctor show, it's like ER. Because that was a show already. And you should be thinking how I can move beyond that concept and how I can expand on that concept or mix that with something else that we haven't seen before, but that kind of blooms in the mind to suggest a clear premise for a show that doesn't exist yet, but people can start to picture it. So it's just helpful. Comps are, you don't need to overthink them, and you can list out a bunch of ideas for them to begin with. But you want to kind of settle on 2. Again, don't pick more than 2 at the end. So try to settle on just 2, or else it will just start to sound like unrecognizable nonsense. And then you're going to have spots for your series and pilot loglines. So I'm going to give you guys just another second to type all these out and make sure that you have spaces for all these things in your sketchbooks right at the top of your first page, and to start filling these things in as they come to you or as you just have ideas for them, or you're not locked in with any of these, so feel free to come up with a couple different ideas if that's what you'd like to do. Any questions so far? Okay, if there's no questions, let's keep going. So, ground rules. Don't do true stories, anthology shows, or adaptations. Including, I would suggest not to do, quote, adaptations of your previous script. So if you have a choice between doing a rewrite of something or writing something based on something you've written before and doing something brand new, probably pick something brand new for a boot camp, because the goal for boot camps is to get through multiple scripts and to build all those fundamentals. We're running laps at the gym, so try to pick something that you'll be able to finish in 6 class meetings. So don't do time travel, just trust me. Probably don't do a historical, just because that will be something that will require extra research, unless you already have a kind of foundation in that era or in that culture or that part of the world, or you know a lot about it as it is, or all you watch is Korean period dramas or something like that, or all you the only thing you read are pirate romances. Then maybe you have a really good idea of that culture and place and time. But just generally be advised that you don't want to pick an idea that require way too much research into anything, into history, into true events. Like, we don't want to pick something where we have fidelity to real events if possible. Beware of tricky things on the page, like clones, parallel universes, and extensive use of flashbacks or different timelines, like show like Lost, or True Detective, or Sharp Objects, or like pretty much any HBO mystery is going to have these really complex interwoven timelines that it's going to be really, really difficult to manage unless you have a lot of experience writing pilots, so probably don't pick something that has those. But this is a good time to take a big swing and write something you don't think would ever get made, or something you just think would be cool, or just something that you wanted to see since you were a kid, or it's some combination that you just think it's amusing, but you have never seen something like it before. This is a time to pick your, it's a lawyer show, but the lawyers are all dogs. It's a dog lawyer show. Like, just pick something crazy like that and see where it goes. So get used to the idea of sharing your work with myself and with fellow students and with everybody at the early stages. I know it can be difficult to hear those big notes early on, so get used to that idea of hearing, this idea may not work as is, or this might not be the best version of this. And get really used to hearing notes and adapting to them and being cool and easy to work with, because these are kind of the most fundamental skills of being a TV writer. I got a note in the chat that says go back a slide. Do you mean back to this slide? Or back more?
Just the one before, so man.
Before this?
To see what you recommended to write down. So
sure.
I'm just going to quickly write it down. So.
Okay. Any questions on the ground rules I've gone over?
Okay, cool. I got it. Thank you.
Sure. Seems like no questions. Last thing is, after this class, you should use a real name if you are not already doing so. So you can right-click on your avatar in Discord and press change nickname, or we can do it for you. But in the industry, we're not using screen names, so you should be using. If you really don't want to use your own name, you can use your middle name, or a nickname, or the name of your cat, or something like that. But you should just use something that is a name, please. Again, you don't have to worry about that now. For the intro classes, use whatever you want. But beyond the intro, if you're planning on sticking around for the whole boot camp, do just pick a real name for us. Okay, so discussion. I don't think we need to discuss the rewrites. I'm gonna say we're open to this, but I'm going to suggest, especially if you're in the newer stages of starting out, probably pick something new. You're just gonna have a lot more freedom, and it's gonna be a lot easier to complete in the time frame of the class. So I'm heavily suggesting that you pick something new. But if you have a rewrite, then maybe you can start to reconceive it and reconceptualize the whole thing in a class like this. Just be prepared to kind of pull the entire thing apart. Okay. We have a comment in the chat. I don't think I can change my name without Nitro. We can change it for you if you'd like, so just let us know what you'd like to change it to. So, shall we look at TV writing basics while you guys are continuing to fill out the sketchbooks and those first couple things on the list? Remember, title, genre, comps, only 2 genres, 2 comps. You're working on thinking of your pilot and series loglines. If you have some concept of what the show will concern, what the conflict will be, what it will be about, you should be filling those things out as you can. But in the meantime, let's talk about just TV writing basics. So, the U.S. system means that, in the U.S. system, shows are written by staffs most of the time. There are some exceptions to this, but most of the time a staff is going to consist of a hierarchy of writers that at the lowest level are staff writers that are overseen by a hierarchy of writing producers, because in TV, producers are writers, all of whom are overseen by the showrunner, who's the head writer and the head of production. They are the heart and soul of the show. They are the show. The number of staff writers can go anywhere from 1 to several for limited series or longer miniseries or things like that, all the way up to 15 plus or 20 plus on late night and sketch comedy shows and things like this. Normally, comedy rooms are much bigger than drama rooms. Let's talk about different terms. You can write these down in your sketchbook if you're not familiar with these already. Spec, S-P-E-C, spec stands for speculative, and it's a weird term because it refers to a few different things. In features, a spec script is one that you've written on your own that you've not been commissioned to write by anyone, and it's going to be used for the purpose of acting as a writing sample or getting you work or perhaps even selling it. In TV, a spec episode is like a fan fiction, like I mentioned before, you're going to use to enter some fellowships. It's like an episode of a show that's currently on the air. There's not that many reasons to write these nowadays except for fellowships. Like, most showrunners don't really want to read these in portfolios anymore. But they're really fun, and I've written like 3 or 4 of them. I wrote like an episode of Cougar Town. I wrote a Wilfred. I wrote a Fargo. And it was just super fun, and I loved doing it. But don't expect that to help your career too much nowadays, except in the sense of entering contests. A spec pilot is usually just called a pilot or an original pilot, but most of the time they'll just say pilot. And that is referring to an original first episode of a theoretical show that doesn't exist and probably will not exist. So try not to count on it existing, or don't hope too hard that it will exist. You have to look at them as practice, but just look at it as it's, at the end of the day, it's the first chapter of a theoretical show that you're going to use as a writing sample mostly to get meetings and to try to get a manager and to try to win contests and to try to win fellowships and things like that. So that's what we're really trying to make here. We're trying to write an original pilot that you're going to use as a sample in your portfolio to try to either build your skills or, perhaps to add to that professional, the folder of pro scripts that you're going to use to try to get work in the industry. So what else? There's a lot of ways to get staffed. There's not one track into it. The most common track is going the assistant route, meaning you'll have to start as an office assistant, moving then to writer's assistant, moving then to writer's PA. Then after a long time of doing that and proving yourself at that, then you move to writer's assistant, then maybe to showrunner's assistant, and then being promoted to staff level after that. You have to be in LA for that for the most part, and I can't help with that one as much because I did not go that route myself. We have a guest who comes in for some classes that did go that route, and we'll be able to help more with that. But in any case, that's the sort of safer route. The more, that's turning it into a 9-to-5 job, or longer than 9 to 5, more like 12-hour days. But you're going to be meeting the writers and meeting the people on the staff, and that's going to be the best option for networking. These jobs are quite difficult to get. Even the assistant level jobs are not entry level in terms of writing, so you have to network, and you have to ideally be here to meet those people that will be able to get you these jobs. You're not really going to be able to do this job remotely anymore as much. During the pandemic, briefly, there was a time where this was mostly happening remotely, but rooms are gravitating back towards in-person, so to be an assistant, you generally are going to have to move here. The other track is you can get obscenely good at writing pilots, as well as other stuff, just like books and plays and stand-up and web series and anything else that you can just use to build out your portfolio and get attention and stand out. Excuse me. And then that is a potential way you can get agent meetings or manager meetings, at which point you will need to have a really good script to share with them. So there's no point in getting meetings unless you're already a fantastic writer. So don't worry too much about how can I start networking unless you are a phenomenal writer, which if you're within your first, 10 to 20 scripts, your chances are you're probably not. So the first step will be getting a manager who's through contests and networking and fellowships and all these things that I've mentioned. Have your manager submit your packet or your portfolio during staffing season, and then really nail the staffing meetings that you get as a result of that. And that way, like for instance, the show that I was staffed on didn't really have a formal staff because it was an anthology, so I only worked with the showrunner, and I never had to go into an office or anything. But that was as a horror anthology that worked a little bit different. It was more like a bunch of really short movies. So joining a staff means you'll be in those rooms for 12 hours a day, which is why I mentioned that this is a very social job, and you should get used to talking and speaking out loud and articulating your ideas and being as well-spoken and social and presentable and polite as possible, because this all sums up to some concept that they call being good in a room. That's referring to excellent social skills. You are extroverted and good at receiving feedback gracefully and being able to rework ideas even as they're torn apart by a room full of people who are guffawing at you. And you're quickly able to assess what the problems and other ideas are, and whatever role you fill in that room to be able to fulfill that to the best of your ability. Riffing off people, collaborating well. Remember, this is very, very, very social, so being nice and presentable and just kind and respectful will give you a huge leg up, and as will having a very thick skin, because everyone has bad days. as a PA, you will get yelled at a lot. As a staff writer, you might get yelled at and sworn at and all these things. So you have to just be prepared for the realities of working in a high stakes, high tension scenario in Hollywood, which means you got to be ready for stuff like that. So you might want to write a pilot because you want to be a professional TV writer. You're trying to just become more skilled at the craft, or maybe this is just something that you find fun. There's no reason that you have to try to be a professional writer, especially when these different types of writing that we're talking about, screenwriting and TV writing, are going to require a really significant investiture of your life into them in order to be able to do them. Whereas something like writing novels is sort of like a skill that you can build over the course of many years. But TV and film is such a sort of condensed and high energy form of writing compared to that it works a little bit differently. The time frames for them work differently, and you have to be willing and ready to dedicate a massive portion of your life to doing this if you want to go pro. But there's no reason that you have to do that right away, and there's no reason that you have to move to Hollywood tomorrow. So work on your skills first, and that's why we offer classes like this, to build those skills and to get to the point where you actually are able to produce something that's worth reading and worth networking with. So don't waste your time and energy making contacts that you're not going to be able to follow up with because you don't have the skills. Just think of yourself as building a long road. You don't have to worry too much about whether any individual brick is a masterpiece or is even really that good. Just consider that you have a long road to build, and you just got to get started on the next one. Okay, so we'll talk logline first. Then I'll try to get to everything if I can in the class. We'll look at logline, sketchbook, story beats, scene cards, and then step 5 is we go to pages. But this is the essential steps that we use for writing everything on ScriptCamp, whether it's a pilot, a feature, a play, a book, or anything like that. We're going to start with the smallest thing and then work our way up from there. So when we say go to pages, that's an industry term, meaning we actually open up that screenwriting software and get to work on the pages themselves, formatting scenes, staging them, blocking them, writing dialogue, all that. We don't need to do that, and you don't need to download screenwriting software until the 5th step of the class. So let's look at step number 1, which is going to be loglines. So a logline is your central conflict of your show distilled into one sentence. So try to get this down to one sentence, but if all you can think of is expressing it, it might take you to write the longer version of it in order to distill it down to the most important version, right? So if it takes you 3 or 4 sentences just to get everything out, and then you can pick out what's important, go ahead and do that. But we're trying to imply visual action. We're trying to, usually a pilot logline will denote for us what is the inciting incident, so what is the event that kicks the story off. Who is the protagonist? What do they want? What's in their way? What happens if they fail? So we have some templates that we use for these that kind of just look like when inciting incident, an adjective protagonist must conflict before stakes. And we'll talk more in detail about what these individual pieces of this mean pretty soon. But for the pilot logline, we like to have a clearer sense of what that just 1 hour of story is going to look like, and we're trying to focus in and help us find help the reader envision what the story of just that one opening episode will be. The series logline is more of a broad look at the entire show, and is more saying, like, what are the sorts of situations that are going to be coming up week by week if this is a status quo show, or if this is a premise show, what is the much grander overall conflict that we need to sort of be tracking. If it's something like, a Game of Thrones or something like that, there's a much larger epic narrative that's going on in the background that will be persisting season by season that we need to know about in the series logline. So a series logline is about giving the sense and the scope of what your show is writ large, and the pilot logline is telling us what this individual episode will be about, and this template will probably help you with that pilot logline. So I would write this down if you have if you do not have this already memorized and you are not familiar with coming up with loglines. This as just a something to start with. Try writing this down, and you can just plug in the basics of your show as you can conceive them, and we will you can go from there. You just need to make sure to answer all these questions in that logline. It doesn't have to stay in that form forever, but this is just a good starting point. So I'll leave that up for another minute while you guys write that down, and I'll just finish up talking about loglines a little bit. I think in about, I'm going to say at the 25-minute mark, we will share our logline. So in 10 minutes or 11 minutes from now, be ready to share whatever you have. It doesn't have to be complete. It's okay if it requires a lot of work. Unformed ideas or less workshopped ideas just require more work, and we'll just get more notes. So be accustomed to that and try to get used to that. Do we have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I know this is probably the 1,000th time I've asked you this, but this is always the part that I struggle most with, is figuring out something that I'm intrigued in. I know we have things like picture prompts and the character prompts, and the title prompts.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've even asked you before what it is that usually speaks to you in terms of like generating an idea, and you've mentioned it's usually got to do with the premise itself.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm just I'm probably looking for something idealistically in terms of more of a black and white answer, but I guess I'm probably not going to get that. I mean, I'm realizing that. But at the same time, I am curious if you had any other techniques or worthwhile things to keep in mind when conceptualizing an idea. Because for me, I find this part kind of hard to do. Maybe it's just like there's too much choice sometimes. It's hard nailing it. So would you say even just is it a matter of maybe? I think I'm probably just thinking out loud at this point, but I assume a lot of those notes that you gave before with like the title, the genre, the format, all of that stuff. I feel like genre maybe is probably a good thing to start with, maybe.
Yeah. Genre's a great place to start, and if you don't know where else to start, that's where I would start, definitely. So genre is going to be like the kinds of shows that you watch. So I think most people have a good sense of the kinds of stuff that they like. So that's a good place to begin if you don't know what your entry point is. You should go with the thing that you have a lot of experience watching. You know what the conventions are, you know what's been done, and you know what hasn't been done. So the nice thing about starting with genre is if it's something you watch a lot of, you can kind of say if something it hasn't been done before, and that's often what we're kind of looking for a little bit. It doesn't. You don't have to write something mind-blowingly original in order to participate in the class. But when I'm looking for ideas, personally, I'm looking for novelty, something that I haven't seen that exact combination of things, because if the exact premise has been done before, I don't really feel called or compelled to spend
but it is more
a long time on it.
I think the word combination really stood out there, and I know you mentioned that before. Of like, it tends to be the thing that I always hear you guys recommending with ideas. It's like, it's not just a detective show; it's werewolf cop. It's like two ironic things that you're putting together. So maybe another way I can think about it is writing a list of things that don't necessarily.
Well, juxtaposition is a good place to find a point of interest, right? Or irony or juxtaposition. A character that we don't expect to be able to succeed in a situation that we need to then watch them, adjust their tactics and really get pushed to the edge of their ability to succeed in that place.
Well, yeah, it's something that implies conflict, right? So
sure.
That's what drama is typically. So if you can find a word or a sentence or even a title that can imply that conflict, seems to have something pretty powerful. So,
the fundamental conflict is a good place to start. I mean, if we can just look at nerdy chemistry teacher becomes drug dealer, then that's a really simple expression of what that whole show is. But it also tells you everything you need to know, right? That's the character arc. That's 5 seasons of some of the best TV right there. Is just nerdy chemistry teacher becomes drug dealer. TV is about transformation and change. So look for an interesting journey, maybe. Some like the progression of like, how could one person think of like what's the furthest someone could go? Like, how could maybe I could do a show about a Nazi becoming a good person, or I could do a show about a good person becoming really evil. Yeah. Or think of like, what is an interesting longer term journey that I can maybe just present the first piece of. Or if you're looking at doing a status quo show, ask yourself, what's an interesting world? What's an interesting time? What's a time period that you're intrigued by? What's a type of job you're intrigued by? What's a type of person you're intrigued by? Is there like something that you're drawn to again and again? If you're drawn to stories about addiction or substance abuse, then maybe a show about a support group could be interesting. Or if you're drawn again and again to stories about broken families, then maybe like you could do an ensemble family drama, but maybe with a genre twist. Like I would look at what you watch and what you're intrigued by. What are some interesting worlds or places and times that you haven't seen explored in the way that you would want them to be? And always be looking for those fascinating points of juxtaposition and comparison. Like a fish out of water will almost always draw our attention, and wave a red flag for interesting narrative here.
No, those are all good points.
That
I'm
was just
trying
a
to think,
bunch
okay,
of, like,
maybe-
a whole blast of tips, so hopefully something
No,
there.
that's great. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm gonna take up as much time as while you're letting people think.
Oh, sure.
But I guess, like, yeah, okay, well, maybe just for the sake of an exercise to shove it in your face and see what you do with it. No pressure, of course. I'm thinking, like, just to maybe walk through how you would go about doing it. If I were to say, like, all right, I want to write a noir or a detective story, like, it's fundamentally like a classic murder mystery, whatever. Where would you usually go from there? Let's say I'm like the guy that gives you the job. I want you to go write a detective story. Like, what are you thinking? You going like, okay, well, what's a really cool world? Are you thinking what's a really cool character that there's a sort of arc within that world potentially? I'm just curious, like, how would you start throwing out ideas? I'm curious to see how, like, quickly you come up with this stuff. You're probably experienced with this stuff.
So in terms of something as formulaic as a detective show, first of all, we would need to know if we were doing a status quo-based show or if it was going to be a premise-based show with a longer storyline. So I would need to determine that first. But if it's up to me and I can just come up with literally anything for a detective
Well, let's
show.
say it's a status quo then. How about that?
Oh, okay, sure. So it's going to be case of the week.
Singular mystery. It's like one mystery. You just need to figure it out for that particular show.
Okay, so case of the week, detective. Then in that case, I would look at the character and his tactics. So we come to detective shows for interesting and competent characters that are being pushed to their limit and forced to sort of adjust to circumstances adjust their tactics as unexpected complications come up. So you need to be looking at what would make that character unique. Like we've seen lots of different versions of this. We have detectives that are psychopaths. We've had detectives that are serial killers. We've had detectives that have OCD. We've had detectives that can talk to ghosts. So I would look at what has not been done, what would be cool, and I would ask myself how those things can form the basis and premise of a show. Because when it comes to status quo-based storytelling, the world and the character is going to be key. It's not the plots don't matter. We're supposed to be able to have thousands of those episodes in theory. So all the focus should be on character and the world that they live in.
Cool. Yeah, I'm trying to write something surrounding like a relatively incompetent detective, but I think if for a TV, it's a little bit more difficult in that regard because if they're not competent at all, why would we watch it?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to solve a case a week if they're not competent.
Right. But I mean, is in like, well, like the only thing I can think of is it's like, it's more played for. I guess like I just like the fact that there's a satirical element of humor in that. So for example, I can think of like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, for example, the main character. He's a bit of an idiot, but he's still good at his job. Maybe like the Pink Panther movies, or just like those types of like. Obviously, those are really like heightened to the point where they're like so unaware. They don't even really know. Like it's borderline Mr. Bean, where he's like solved the mystery without even taking.
Yeah, you can do that too. That can work too. That's gonna sort of angle more towards comedy. Rather than
but I'm saying like
detective,
if you were to level
can do
that out into like a normal world, I guess that again you're saying it comes down to what world you decide to put. Right? So,
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So look at
that helps define the character as well. And realize it.
For sure. Yeah, the world is super important in TV, and that's why you can even see on all the spin-offs of all the different CSIs and Law and Orders. It's like Law and Order Miami, CSI Las Vegas. They're all based on different locations and the various thrills and that location offers.
Yeah, I guess I've been saying this for like the longest time in regard to like that plot and character are synonymous in it. But I didn't think about it in terms of like plot being what a story about, because I just thought about this, right? And you've just sort of reaffirmed it to me. Like, you know, if you write the incompetent, idiotic character like that isn't very good at their job potentially, right? If you put them in a comedic world, right, where it's quite abstracted and it seems like that's normalized, for example, suddenly it doesn't seem all that crazy for them to be there. But if you throw them in the world like Seven, for example, like they're going to have a completely different story and they're going to be treated very differently and defined very differently as a result. That's an interesting thing to keep.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Different tones of world will allow for different things to happen. So like an incompetent character can only really carry a show, or a super incompetent character will be able to best carry a show in a comedic world where incompetent people, or incompetence is not as big a hindrance as it would be in real life.
Yes, and that can be that can then be played with.
Yep, I think you've got it exactly.
Okay, I'll have a little think of that. Thank you.
Sure. All right, I said at the 25-minute mark we're going to be posting, so let's go ahead and share in the chat right now. You can post your ideas for your loglines, or if you even, if it's like not even a complete logline, that's all right. But go ahead and just share what you've got in the chat, and I can start calling on people, and we're going to just start to give you some advice, some ideas how to move that idea forward, or some suggestions for how to move that idea forward, and to start to shape that into a workable TV property. So it looks like Carmen has posted hers so far. Thank you, Carmen. I'll give you guys a moment to paste this, and I'm going to bring up our Google Doc here so I can mark these up.
You can go ahead and go to the others, because we've talked about mine before, and I think I kind of know what I'm doing,
Okay.
sort of. So you can go ahead and go to next person.
Okay. We might come back to you if we run out of log lines to read, but if everyone else posts, then sure, we don't have to do yours now if you don't want to.
Okay, I think I have more questions about characters,
Oh, okay.
which will come later, right?
Yeah, during the later classes in the session, we can talk more about characters. We also have lab tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, so we have one from Bunker. Thank you for that. Make sure to include your title and genre if you can. So go ahead and everyone share what you've got in the chat, and I'll be calling on folks one-on-one to go over these. Thank you, Tamara. Tamara, can you include the title and genre too, if you have them? And while you guys are posting, I might just maybe Carmen, if you don't want to discuss yours now, I can just look at it and just sort of comment on it without having to work on it too much in depth. Let me just read it because I just haven't read it in a while, and let me just see what my thoughts are. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, you helped me with this. I don't know if you remember.
This was a while ago. Yeah, I'm having trouble remembering this one.
It's been a while.
Okay, Pharmakia. A pill-addicted teenage girl with astral projection powers must destroy the demons behind a pharmaceutical doomsday plot. I was going to go, well, good job with that logline. In the pilot logline, let me just clear this up. Pilot logline is: a defiant 16-year-old girl must learn how to harness her astral projection powers to defeat a specific demon. I think that was actually a description of... I think we were saying a specific demon in brackets, weren't we?
Yeah, I have that highlight. I'm sorry about that. I haven't come up with the name of the demon, or... I feel like I just want to get away from this whole demon thing for some reason, but people like that, huh? They like the whole demon thing and the magic, but I think this is more of like, if there even is such a thing as a military drama, because the story, and when I say the story, I'm talking about how it plays out in my mind, because I have the entire thing in my mind like it's already a thing, right? Mm-hmm. It hasn't been fully put down on paper, so I just, I am even considering the main character to a different character, because a few of those characters could be the main protagonist, and it would be pretty interesting, I think, anyways. I I don't know. I think I just wanted to stay on Earth on this one, but at the same time, maybe that's not as popular. And maybe having these metaphors and these, if you want to think of these things as metaphors, or there, you can work in symbolism more into it to kind of convey a bigger actual reality through these images and things. And so, I mean, I think a lot of things are like that. You know, people are conveying a bigger message through their writing and through the shows that we watch without us really being aware of it sometimes, right?
Sure, yeah, you can definitely do all that. I guess I would just say we don't have to worry about what's popular when we're just writing pilots to improve our skills. So don't write about demons just because you feel like that's what the people demand. You should be writing what you want and what you think is the best. So in this case, it doesn't have to be, the antagonists don't have to be demons. They can be anything you want. It could be witches. It could be a syndicate. It could be a cartel. It could be a secret society. You see what I mean? Like, it could be so many things.
Okay.
Terrorist cell, witches, vampires, whatever you want. So it doesn't have to be. You already have one supernatural element here that we have. You know, magic. She does have magic powers. If you're going to change it more than that, this might end up being a bit more of a sort of a tech thriller. I would say my only thoughts are on the genre here. This doesn't really sound like a military drama. This sounds like a supernatural thriller.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Is that when I'm thinking about, when the thing is going through my mind, like these are the scenes, right, in this pilot.
Mm-hmm.
See, like it could actually be two different stories, but at the same time they coincide. So transitioning in and out of these two different worlds is what I wanted to accomplish, which maybe I should just think of these as two different stories, but then to me it doesn't convey the bigger message of this idea, you know, if I separate the threads, you know, instead of weaving them together. So I think that I do come across that a lot with my ideas and in my writing too, is that I have a lot of too many things that go in, you know, instead of going deeper into the one idea. That's what I struggle with quite a bit.
Right. So I would say just follow the fun. Like, find the thing that attracted you to this idea. Was it the psychic powers? Was it the demons and psychic powers? Or was it the military intrigue? And then you want to follow the fun on it. So that means focus on the thing that is more entertaining for you, and that you will be able to, if it's more entertaining to you, then you'll be able to render that more entertaining to other people. So if you want to angle this as more of a military drama, you don't need the magic powers, you don't need the demons, you don't need the doomsday plot. Or I mean, it could still be a nuclear or biological doomsday plot of some kind, you know what I mean? So you'll just have to kind of figure out what you enjoy about this, and that will help you narrow down what you're trying to create.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Thanks for sharing. Let's do some more. We have Conjure Crime Comedy from Bunker. Go ahead and read this out for us. Are you there, Bunker? We might have to come back to you. Oh, you don't have a mic. That's right. Okay, I forgot you don't have a mic. That's okay. Let me read it out then in that case. So, Conjure Crime Comedy. On the last leg of his career, a talented magician... Is this the series logline or the pilot logline? I think this is the series logline. A talented magician turns to a life of crime to stay afloat and to stay in the magic business. Oh, I love that. Okay. I'm intrigued by this. I didn't think that being a magician would be expensive, but I suppose you're saying in your world it kind of is. I mean, the basics of this idea, I guess you're sort of suggesting that his magic costs money to do, or my question is, is he a real magician or is he a stage magician? So feel free to type in the text and I can read your response. Oh, you're still thinking about that. Okay, so you're not sure if this is a fantasy or if this is a more realistic story. because that would be a totally different show, wouldn't it? So might have to narrow that down first. I'm interested either way. Go ahead.
I was under the impression it was like a stage magician, like in a real. It's a business, right? So I was expecting it to be like real world.
I thought, yeah, I am not sure, but he says it could go. He's still thinking so.
I thought what you meant was like, is he just like a magician that walks around, like does that for a job, or is he like actually on a stage working? Was what I thought you meant by that question.
Right. My question was, is he doing real magic or not?
Right. Okay. I see what you mean.
Right. Where did my screen go? There it is. So I might have to clarify that in the logline, or you might have to just decide on that if you have not decided on that yet. But if he's on the last leg of his career, why is it so urgent that he stay in the business? I guess what you're really trying to say with this is that either he's like sort of trying to artificially extend his career even past his like expiration date, or perhaps he's not on the last leg of his career as much as his business is just being threatened by something, right? So you might have to just change the stakes a little bit to suggest what is threatening his business if that's the case. Why does he need so much money to do this? I guess if he's a stage magician, that would have to mean he's not very successful, right? So I think we might just need a little more clarity and specificity on this one. I do like the idea of magician turns to crime. That's a great sort of this meets that pitch for a show. We want to know if he's really doing magic or if he's just doing tricks. But I could see all kinds. I could see that a magician would be very good at crime, especially pickpocketing or maybe even robbing people through street magic or something like that. So I think we want a better sense of what kind of magician is this? Meaning, stage or like David Blaine, street magic kind, or do you mean an actual wizard? That's going to be our first thing. And then help us understand the conflict a little better by clarifying the stakes for us. So why does he really need that money now? I didn't really realize it was super expensive to be a magician. So is it that he's being run out of business by someone, or did his theater burn down, or help us just figure out what's kicking the story off? And by that same token, just try to enhance that clarity and specificity as much as you can. But I really do like the basics of this. This sounds entertaining. So would love to see more of this. Thanks, Bunker. Okay, let's go to tomorrow. Are you there tomorrow? I guess not. We can come back to tomorrow when she is able to speak. Okay, let's move to... I see she's typing. Maybe she does not have a mic.
Okay, I'm sorry. I always have a problem with this app. It drives me crazy.
You're good. I can hear you now.
Okay, great. My log line is, the name of my show would be Sire Justice. It's drama, but I do want it to be light at times, a little bit of humor. And my log line is, after saving lives from civil war in Brazil, Sire returns home to discover he has to use more than medicine to save his life and his neighborhood from local criminals.
All right. Thanks for that. After saving lives from civil war in Brazil. From a civil war in Brazil? Or I think that's what we would say, right?
From a civil war, yeah. He's a doctor in Doctors Without Borders.
Oh, okay. So we can't say our character name because just the reader of a logline is not going to know who your character is. So you have to kind of define who the character is a little bit. So instead of saying his name...
Oh, I thought that I didn't normally, but then I read something where they said it's better if you use the character's name. So, okay, that's my bad. All right.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it just doesn't mean anything to us. So, and we're not going to remember the name. So might as well just define them by... Well, you can pick how you want to define them, right? Because you can define somebody by their career, by their family status. Yeah. You can define somebody as a mother, or you can define somebody as a firefighter, or you can call them almost anything you want. So try to pick the most...
That's what I had originally. I had a young doctor returns home from civil war in Brazil to discover. So okay. I'll go back. Thank you.
I think that's a little stronger. So young is usually not going to be the best description, though, just because it could mean almost anything. Young can mean a teenager all the way. A young doctor could be up to their 40s, couldn't they? So I think you just need to maybe get a little more specific again and find a trait that is particularly relevant to this character. Like, how was he traumatized by helping these people in this Civil War scenario? He was. Okay, so maybe that's relevant. You might find, a doctor suffering from PTSD or something like that might be a relevant trait that is going to feel like it adds to the drama here. Discover he has to use more than medicine to save his life and his neighborhood. So I would probably just say to save his neighborhood. We understand that the more that this conflict escalates, that his life will probably be at stake.
Just left it how I had it. Okay, yeah, that's what I had originally too. Okay.
I see. Yeah, so your instincts were probably right there. And when you say he has to use more than medicine, you mean he has to kill the bad guys? Is that right?
Yes, but when he's in Brazil, he learns. This is sort of when you said to talk about in their description, like this show meets this show. He's a doctor, but while he's in Brazil, he's bullied. He's very introverted, and it makes him come out of his shell. He loses a patient that's important to him. And he learns the art of jiu-jitsu. So when he comes back, he finds that he has to use more than medicine to save his neighborhood. He has to actually get his hands dirty.
Oh, he has to use more than medicine. He has to use martial arts?
Yes.
Okay. So don't hide that from us. We want to know that in the logline. So you're being very coy and you're holding back some of the most fun stuff here. So we can't be. I know that you'll see loglines sometimes, or they won't always even be loglines, but you'll see like little, whatever you call them, synopses of a show on the back of a DVD box or on IMDb or something, and they might look kind of like this. But a logline, we can't hold back the cool stuff because we're risking that they won't read it, right? So you gotta, if your hero is beating people up with martial arts, we do want to know that. And that also makes me think this might be more of an action or crime.
I was going to put that, but I thought we weren't supposed to put more than one.
No more than two.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, no more than two. Okay. See, I cut so much back when you said just write what you wanted and then reduce.
That's the right idea.
I just reduced the good stuff. Okay.
That's okay. You had the right instinct. But so yeah, this might be an action drama, or we, I mean, if he's actually using martial arts to fight these bad guys, then that's probably how I would consider it. And unless it was like he's going to use guerrilla warfare tactics on them or something like that. You're saying this is a little more exaggerated. This isn't. Would you say this is a realistic show?
Yes, definitely not outrageous. It's sort of, I really think of it like a family drama, although there's this action, because there are, you get to know him through his family, because when he comes back, he's such a changed man that we get to see how his family responds to him, because they knew him going away as one man, and he comes back so much different.
I see. So I'll maybe say something like to use his newly acquired skill in martial arts. I mean, I have if you say it's very realistic, I'm struggling to imagine how martial arts are going to be the best option to liberate your neighborhood from criminals and not just shooting them with guns. That's the thing that makes me think, okay, this might have a bit more of like a comic book kind of feel to it. You know what I mean? And that's okay.
Right.
Like you can do either one. You can do like Jackie Chan movie, or you can do like and you can do like the Punisher. Again, Punisher is like very exaggerated, like comic book, over the top storytelling. Or you can do sort of like The Wire. You could do like really realistic. But you should just decide what your tone is.
Have you seen the series Luther with Idris Elba? He is a detective in London, and he's like the lead detective for his bureau, but he doesn't ever shoot a gun. He catches like really heinous criminals, and he never does anything excessively violent. That's where I got that idea from, because I just think it's just so gratuitous, the violence. And I like the idea of him. He has to fight every week because there's a bounty on his head after he gets back. So he's literally going in the ring and fighting, but in that when he gets back and he sees that his neighborhood has changed so much, he has to deal with local criminals, and he finds ways to negotiate and to actually fight to get his neighborhood back. So
Okay.
It's not really comic bookish, but it is. It would be considered some. I guess from what you're just saying to me now, I'm understanding that it to somebody who's just coming at this with no insight, they would think, well, how do you do that without, force, real force? But I didn't write it that way at all. I didn't conceptualize that.
That's okay. It can be whatever tone you want. We just have to be specific in how we explain it. So your comps might be like Death Wish. To me, it sounds like Kung Fu might be one of your comps, but I mean that may be building the wrong image in people's heads.
Too. I definitely thought Charles Bronson. So you're right on track with where I was thinking.
Yeah. Maybe there's a show called Warrior. I haven't actually seen it. I think it's more of a historical Kung Fu action kind of show on HBO, but that might be one to look at. Seems very cool. Maybe Gangs of London. Look into that one.
Okay, yeah, I started watching that not too long ago too. Okay.
Really good fighting in that show. So good.
Thank you.
So yeah, that should give you enough to work on for now. And then this is the series logline, so you'll need a pilot logline too, and that'll be more like tell us the inciting incident of just the pilot. So when he gets back home, he what's his first objective? He discovers his house has been bulldozed, and now he needs to find out who did it, and give us like the first objective in the long saga that we're about to go on.
Thank you so much for that, because I was trying to figure out what I needed to highlight in that first episode so much. Like I had some ideas of what it is, but the way you just said that, it all clicked. So yep, thank you.
Yeah, it might be like we try to just zero in on what his goal is for that pilot. Yeah, I think that should be enough for you to figure out a pilot logline.
Okay.
Thanks for this.
Thank you.
Let's go to Lee with Ebb and Flow.
Awesome, thank you. So this is not the one that I have written a draft of. This is like brand new concept from like last week. So I'm excited to like dig into it. So the series logline, it's a fantasy dramedy. The comps are like Touched by an Angel and This Old House. So the series logline is: an ancient water deity moonlights as a hot-headed plumber. Together, he and his apprentice, an easygoing young trans woman, help their clients trade rigid puritanical values for fluidity and compassion. Super wordy. I would love help with it. The pilot logline, I haven't worked it out because I haven't worked out what the pilot is. The only thing that I know happens is that in the pilot, the apprentice learns that the plumber is not just a human guy.
Okay. So this is
there's that.
So the sort of who do you see as sort of the main character of this, I guess I would ask, or is this more of a sitcom where it's pretty balanced between them, like something like Peep Show, or I don't know if you've seen that one, but like a show with two roommates who live together and we kind of 50-50 balance between them?
I would say it's pretty balanced. I would imagine it being pretty balanced, like more of a two-hander, but probably the I'm having trouble nailing down the characters. Actually, I have like the premise, but I've gone back and forth on like which one of them is patient versus impatient, like kind of trying to get that contrast between the two mains, and figuring out what's going to work best. Because I think the apprentice probably has more room for like an arc over the series,
right?
Because they tend to.
That's true. So if you're gonna do a storyline where we get the characters meet for the first time, this is like what the Sherlock reboot did, where like John Watson meets Sherlock Holmes for the first time in the first episode, where we sort of establish your main partnership. Probably conceive of your pilot logline from that second character's point of view. So from the apprentice's point of view, this would be when she gets a job at with an eccentric plumber. She discovers that her boss is in fact blankety blank, and now she needs to blank, right? So what's the problem now that she has discovered that that's the case? Is he trying to keep it a secret that he's a deity? Is he can you help me understand what you mean when you say they help their clients trade rigid puritanical values for fluidity and compassion? What does that mean?
Yeah, totally. What it means is I grew up watching Touched by an Angel, and I'm not Christian anymore, and so like they're just there are a lot of sort of neo-pagan, more holistic, nature-based values and lessons that I feel like could probably come through in a show like this.
But from your plumbers?
So, yeah, totally.
So,
So
I mean, that's very original. I love that. I just want to know, is that their main job, though? Or is that, like, on the job? Are they... But is the series logline, every episode, there's a busted pipe that they need to fix. And then while
Yeah,
they're
basically.
there, then they're
also, like, chatting up the clients and, like,
trying to...
telling
Spread
life
their
lessons
philosophy.
through, like, plumbing metaphors. Yeah.
That's really funny, but I think you need to change the series logline to, like, that's the subtext of what they're doing. What they're actually doing is every week there's a new crazy problem they have to solve that relates to plumbing.
Okay.
This is one of your comps might be the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, honestly, because
Perfect.
Which was
Great.
a terrible sitcom from, I don't know if you even know this exists, but this was like, it had animated sequences, but it also had live action sequences that were basically just sort of like Seinfeld, but with the Mario Brothers, and it was not funny at all.
That's amazing.
I mean, that's almost what this is. There's two people that live together, and every week there's some plumbing problem they have to go fix. I mean, Mario's kind of a deity of a certain kind. Anyway,
totally.
so that's just, this does make me think of Mario.
Maybe he wasn't played by Chris Pratt.
Yeah, why not?
Absolutely not. No. Veto.
Okay, yeah, we gotta make sure to get your casting sorted out early. So
Yeah, really.
I really like this. Just clarify the series log on what they're actually doing. Don't give us like the implications of what they're doing, or like the
Okay.
That's what they do alongside fixing the problem of the week. And maybe you could explain it in those terms, like as they fix problem of the week, as they fix plumbing problem of the week, they never miss an opportunity to, you know, spread their fluidity and compassion. Or
Awesome.
you're saying fluidity as a joke, right? Because they're plumbers, and one of them's name is Flo.
'cause they're
so
plumbers.
This is all plumbing jokes all the way down.
Yep.
And then for the pilot logline, frame it from your secondary character's point of view, and it should all fall into place because it's going to be a pretty easy case of inciting incident is we get the job and we show up and we try it out, and it turns out our boss is not only grumpy and hard to work with, but also is a supernatural creature. That dramatic question pretty easily becomes, do I stay at this job or do I not, right? So
Awesome.
most setups like this are going to be where your character is forced by their circumstance, they're so desperate for money or whatever, they're like, I have to just try this one job, I just have to stick it out for one job, and then over the course of that one job, they realize, oh, this isn't so bad, or like maybe I do really contribute to this team, like maybe this is ultimately where I'm supposed to be. And that's the arc of your first episode. Like that's everything from your Sherlock to the IT crowd to any sort of outsider joins the team sort of setup.
Bloods is really good. If anyone has not seen
Is that a comedy?
Bloods. It's a BBC comedy. I think they've done 2 seasons. It's on Hulu, I want to say. And it's spectacular. It's about EMTs.
EMTs. I was going to say that's about gangs, right? No. Okay. So
It's-
EMTs.
Yeah.
There have been a couple EMT shows. There was one called Sirens, which I believe had a UK and a US version that was on USA as
awesome.
well. So yeah, always an interesting place to get lots of conflict and drama week by week.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing
Right.
this. This sounds very original. I'm looking forward to hearing more about this one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. XWB says, is there a way to share my logline now, or is it too late to share? Well, we're down to our last 7 minutes, and I think I do have one more to get to. Do I have one more? Yeah, I have one more from Super Papa Guy. So I would think that we're probably out of time for today, but we'll have lab tomorrow. So if you are a member, then come by 4 to 6. If you're not a member, then you can post in the feedback channel that we have for everyone, and include the details, and you can get that feedback from other students and also myself over the course of this week. We'll also have more free promotional TV writing events all throughout this month, so stay tuned for announcements on more of these. Okay, let's go to Super Papa Guy for Hood Cats, and that will be our last one for today.
Let's read out my logline.
Yep, go ahead.
Is in to 3 elementary school best friends for life, in the most notorious neighborhood in this city, try to grow up having as much fun as they can before they have to deal with the real world problems of growing up. Like, I was thinking for the ideas, we're kind of doing like a tone with in contrast, instead of having sort of light characters, instead of it was like sort of like a real world darkness, but it sort of play off with instead of doing like real world issues, sort of like abuse and other things like the poverty and like criminal justice system, but kind of more of a sort of like a dark comedic tone. And I guess like it would be like it's sort of a comparison would be like it would sort of kind of like have it's sort of like the kind of like comedy would come from like contrasting sort of like the light tone of maybe like maybe kind of like sort of like a light tone of like maybe a slice of life, like kids show like the Powerpuff Girls, for example, but also dealing with maybe like a show like the Boondocks also does delve into like a little bit of like Euphoria, where it like also does delve into sort of real world issues.
I see. Okay, so
yeah.
Just a note on your mic. So if you go to, we're getting a lot of kind of background sound. Maybe you're sitting next to an air conditioning unit or something like that, or maybe it's just the mic settings. I would suggest clicking the gear icon in the bottom left corner of your Discord screen. Go to voice and video and make sure that your, noise suppression is on. And try setting it from standard to crisp if that doesn't work. Just a suggestion. But let me take a look at this one and give you feedback on this now. We're getting a lot of distortion. Do you mind actually muting your mic for a second? We're just hearing like a buzz from it constantly. You can unmute to speak, but if you just mute it for a moment.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, so let me read this back. So Hood Cats, dark comedy, I get what you're saying about this. It's going to have a sort of balance between the darker tone and maybe touch on some real-world issues too. 3 elementary school best friends for life. So I'm not sure why all these words are capitalized. 3 elementary school best friends for life. Living in the most notorious neighborhood in the city. Great. Okay, so like a lower class neighborhood. Try to grow up having as much fun as they can before they have to deal with the real world problems of growing up. So this, as a series logline, I'm not quite getting what the conflicts are going to be. I think that you need to sort of not highlight what they're avoiding dealing with, but tell us what they are dealing with now. Maybe you're sort of the suggestion would be that they are doing these things because they are trying to avoid the responsibilities of adulthood or something, but we want to know more like what are they doing. So you say that they are just trying to have fun, but what does that mean for them, right? Like, and we can look at a show like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which has sort of like a vibe where the characters basically episode by episode just set their own weird little goal and are kind of just trying to get by and have fun, right? But that idea of they're trying to get rich quick a lot of the time kind of pervades a lot of the show, right? So what specific sort of conflict are they facing? Ed, Edd n Eddy, I've sometimes come back to as just like a similar show that's a cartoon with a vibe like that, where like every episode they sort of just set a made-up imaginary goal, right? But it's always in service of making money and buying jawbreakers, which is the weirdest thing. It's like they just want to get candy. So all of their schemes, although it is just some random thing per episode, they all do revolve around their pursuit of getting this candy. And in terms of Always Sunny, most of the time their schemes are going to revolve around some crazy method of getting rich at other people's expense. So yeah, try to just tell us about the specific conflicts that they're facing. Are they mostly related to their popularity at school? Are they committing crime? Are they trying to start music careers? Like, maybe just zero in a little bit more than just saying they're trying to have as much fun as possible. They're trying to have fun in what way? And what conflicts does that suggest? Okay, then let me check the pilot logline. After life keeps coming up. So life keeps coming up is not going to be an inciting incident for a pilot. We're going to have to pick something a little bit, again, more concrete. So life keeps preventing them from being able to hang out all summer.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's changing it to I think like one of the characters will deal with like abuse from their mom, and that like prevents them from like that, and like having to be like always at home, like prevents them from doing like their summer like work of plans.
Oh, okay, I could see that. Yeah, so I would swap that, and I would mention this specific incident instead in the pilot logline, just so we can clarify that. So 3 girls try to cram their entire summer plans into their first day of school. I think I sort of see what you mean. So you're saying something specific comes up that says, okay, we're not going to be able to hang out this summer, so they decide the only solution is to do all the things they plan to do in summer during one day?
Yeah.
Why not on a weekend?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess it's like the only time we were able to meet up was like the day before school. This idea is that like they do sort of all their plans before, all their plans for the summer, so they can do like so we're doing so they have free time, but like all the plans they want to do during the school.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, I think I do see what you mean, and you have a little room in a comedy to have the characters just sort of make up arbitrary stakes for themselves. But in terms of just the logline itself, it should be clear to the audience why they're doing this exactly. Like, it just seems like it almost feels a little forced in terms of we have to get everything done by this one day. Well, we want to know why that is. Like, if they don't get everything done by this one day, well, I don't think anything bad will happen. But if you're suggesting that just logistically this is the only day they can hang out, I think if you can make that clear in the pilot logline, then we'll have a better sense of like, oh, this is the motivation for them doing this. So maybe you can clarify motivation for this plot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So probably Lou's life keeps coming up, and just give us the clear, inciting incident, like what is the thing that makes them realize this is the one day they can hang out. And then if there's like, I'm guessing they have like top 3 things that they need to accomplish, or maybe like a list of things they need to accomplish, or if we can get anything more specific than just their entire summer plans, then that would be great. If not, I think that this works pretty well, and I can imagine the sort of antics that would result from this. Oh wait, are they in elementary school right now?
Yeah.
They are. Oh, these are just children.
Yeah.
I somehow missed that. When you said they were elementary school best friends, I thought you meant that's where they met originally, but now they're adults. But you're talking about these kids are like 8 years old?
Maybe like around like 12 years old, like 10, 11, like early middle school, like late elementary school.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think 12 is more like middle school, definitely. That's like 6th or maybe even 7th grade.
It's like 6th, 7th grade, yeah.
Yeah, so I would clarify because that's a big difference in those age groups. Like elementary school to middle school is a pretty big leap in what those characters would be up to. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm wondering how much trouble 3 10-year-olds are really going to get into. We're saying this is a dark... now that I know that they're this young, this seems way darker than I had thought it was before. I think I still mostly see what you mean here. Is this animated or is this live action?
Oh, quite animated.
Oh, it's animated. Okay, so yeah, you have more room to do kind of crazy stuff in animated, like South Park or something like that. So that would probably be one of your comps here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're in the world of animation, I don't think it's too dark at all. I think it's not that big a deal. And I think I have a clearer sense of what the show is now that I know that. So does that help answer your questions here, and does that get you thinking of maybe what some of those solutions might be?
Yeah.
Okay, any questions?
Go
ahead.
Yeah, if I mentioned this before, I guess like one of the ideas, like it says, is their kids. I guess like one of the ideas that I guess like in this part of their life would be like, I guess it's kind of like like the edge of where like society kind of like views them as kids, and like especially like in their neighborhood, things like I think sort of real world issues like kind of like criminal justice and the police, especially on like the police around like teenagers, kind of like the edge of where they become there's also like adultification, like those kind of issues, like so the edge of where they start to like looked at as having like some of the responsibilities, and also some of the negative stereotypes of like the adults in their neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how would you like communicate that anxiety in the log line, like also kind of like show that sort of like a motivation that's like sort of their last opportunity to really like be able to act like kids.
In elementary school? I would think that would be like an older teen concern, don't you?
I guess yeah, it's kind of a lot of sort of research on the issue. I mean, it was obviously like a lot of things was based off of like and like one thing I was thinking was like it was the oldest age. I think there's still a lot of like there are a lot of like adultification, like all those issues that do happen around like 12 and 13 years old, especially in like it's like poor neighborhoods in America. It's kind of based off of other real world issues, like the youngest. I think in like pretty much like every state, like I think the oldest, what is it? I mean, like the oldest age you can like enter the oldest minimum age like enter the criminal justice system is like 12. So that was like kind of what it was based off of.
I see.
And most of the countries, like, most states like around 8, or like it doesn't exist for like there's like no minimum age for like 20 states. It's kind of like existing of how how like all again like adult issues we kind of get to first one like younger and younger children.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. So I think that now that you've explained it, I think that the age of the characters pretty much does make sense to me. And within animation, you have a little more room to play around with that and to put younger characters in different situations that wouldn't make as much sense in live action. So
yeah, I was like I guess maybe age like we kind of like a bit of an exaggeration.
Right.
Yeah, some big exaggeration, but it's also like not that much of an exaggeration from the real world.
I see what you mean. Okay, that makes sense. So in a sort of South Park kind of way, I see the logic behind it. Okay, so we have to wrap up. We're 5 minutes over our time, but hopefully that's enough for you to revise this a little bit, get a little more specific and concrete. That note goes to almost everyone. Concreteness and specificity will really help with loglines. Don't hold back the best stuff. Show us the best stuff and make sure that you're getting the right audience and that they're coming because they know the sort of thrills that you're offering them, and that you will be able to then make the promise. You're making the implicit promise that you will then be able to deliver on those things. So let's wrap up with our last couple slides. We're gonna show you what to do for next time. Basically, make that sketchbook and start to fill it out with all of your ideas for the answers to these questions. I know we didn't get to all of these things, like we didn't quite break down different genres or look at format or time slot yet, so don't worry about that stuff yet, or you can watch one of our other intro classes that we have recordings up on our YouTube channel if you want to just get a better sense of what some of these other things mean. But it's not a huge deal. Just focus on what we talked about today. Try to develop your idea. Start to fill out the sketchbook with every idea you have for all the characters, for the location and world that it takes place in, for the specific rules of that world, and start doing the research over the holidays that you're going to need that will help your story be as authentic as it needs to be. So you're going to try to fill all these things out, as many as you can for next time. Workshop and revise that logline, making sure to, if you're a member, you can come to lab 4 to 6 on Saturday, so tomorrow, and you can get extra one-on-one help on it, and up to 15 minutes of help usually. And then, so by the time we get to our first class, which again is January 16th, right? Then, where is it? Yeah, December 16th. Then you will have a clearer sense of what your logline is, and you can get feedback on it in our chat channels before then if you need to. So revise the loglines, and you need to read a recent pilot script beginning to end. You're going to try to do this every week, 1 script per week, absolute minimum. So we have a link that we can share with you guys that will include access to all kinds of pilot scripts from the recent season. And this is a great place to go for US and also UK scripts. I'm going to leave that in the chat there. So your job is to download and read an entire pilot script from beginning to end. I recommend you pick something you have not seen before or you have not read before, so it's going to be brand new and fresh to you. And you can start practicing reading text from a screenplay and picturing the movie in your mind as you go. So you need to get better and better at that. So definitely pick a pilot script to read in its entirety for next time. You're not going to be quizzed. You'll just be asked, what did you read? What did you like? What did you notice? Like just basic questions about it like that. That's all. That's all you have to do for next time. So we'll open the floor one last time to any questions about the boot camp, any questions about anything we've talked about today. Go ahead.
So I might join a little late. It's like a document that like outlines the boot camp and like what's going on like each week.
Yeah, that is, I believe that is included in this slideshow. If it's not, then on the announcement posts for this course, it's usually included, the full overview. And I'm also just going to link the slideshow so you can go back and review anything in this later if you need to.
Yeah, a few people may have joined late, so Super Papa Guy, I'm not sure if you caught it, but we did have like a poll. So if you're planning to join the boot, you can vote yes in this poll, and you'll get instant access to all the bootcamp channels, and there's lots more resources there, and you can kind of start joining the discussion to finalize your idea that you're going to work on.
You can find that if you scroll up in the chat. It's like a series of blue buttons. You'll click the number 1 in that list to indicate that you're interested in joining. And the calendar on our website is still not up to date, so don't rely on the calendar on the site, but the events on Discord should be up to date. So in the top left of this page of the Script Camp Discord server, click the icon that says 48 events, or however many events are posted at that time, and you should see an up-to-date listing of the upcoming stuff. Remember to come by tomorrow, everybody. I'll just say before everyone heads out, remember to come by tomorrow at noon on this server for our readings and announcements of our winners. We're going to have prizes for them. We're going to have industry guests. They're going to come in and comment on these great scripts, and we're going to have actors reading all these roles. It should be super fun tomorrow at noon Pacific time in this Script Camp server. Any other last questions before we go? Okay, if there's no more questions, we will wish you guys a good night and remind you your goal next time: fill out that sketchbook as much as you can, revise those pilot loglines and series logline, and read a recent pilot script. We'll see you all next class, December 16th, or at your next Script Camp workshop, class, or event, and hopefully see you tomorrow for the event I've mentioned. All right, so hope everyone has a great night. We'll see you soon.